Today we're having a little smackdown between commercial interfacing and some DIY options. Interfacing is in friggin' everything. It's in your collars, it's in your pants, it's in your bags, but it is not in your sewing kit when you need it. So today we're going to see if some of our DIY options can save you a trip to the store for a $10 item that's wrapped in plastic and made out of plastic that you maybe don't really need. Before we can decide whether or not you need interfacing, we should get on the same page about exactly what it does and why we want it. Interfacing makes things lay really flat or, stand up and look happy and perky. And if you don't have interfacing, sometimes your clothes look sort of a little sad and wrinkly and pathetic. Here's a little piece of fabric with interfacing, and here's a little piece of fabric without it. Oh, honey. There you go. Interfacing is just a stiffer piece of fabric that's added to give garments structure. It's like if you had some flexible, washable cardboard. That's interfacing. Before interfacing, there were a lot of floppy garments. Think animal skins, think togas, capes, and somewhere along the line, the brilliant tailors got this idea of having things like top hats and, those curly collars kings wore that stick straight out, or like a poofy skirt that you have to walk sideways through the door frame, and other things like nice tidy buttonholes, and we needed structural support for these things. Anyway, tailors used all kinds of things from whalebones to starched horsehair to make that happen. And crinoline, that's the starched horsehair option. It's still in use today by couture fashion houses and people that want to look good more than they want to be comfortable. Interfacing is really just fabric, heavier fabric stitched into the garment. So then, after we had interfacing and crinolines, then came along fusible interfacing. Now this was a total game changer. It's got dots of heat-activated glue on it, and it's made from a thermoplastic fabric so it can withstand the heat of an iron. But instead of sewing it in, you could just iron it on. Tailors everywhere rejoiced. Oh, even my heart gets a little happy thinking about it. Fast forward to the modern day, and we have dozens of options for interfacing. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. It's really a creative choice which option you're going to use. Generally, I'm looking for something that's slightly stiffer than whatever fabric I'm sewing in, and oftentimes for me, that's a second layer of the same fabric. When we have all these glued-in interfacings, why would anybody want sewn-in interfacing? Well, thank you for asking. Almost all interfacing gets sewn in at some point. So just because you glued it on the fabric doesn't mean there's not going to be a seam line going across there. Second of all, you have more flexibility and less down the line problems with interfacing that's not attached. It's couture versus convenience. So fusible interfacing is technically a hack made out of plastic and immediate gratification. Now that you know that interfacing is basically fabric with glue on it, let's look at some DIY options so that you can decide when it's worth it to make that trip to the store. We're here in the garage because things might get messy, and here we have a bunch of DIY and commercial interfacings and several tests. We're going to test to crush them and see how well the interfacings bounce back. We've got the heat and fire tests here. We have the washing test here, and then we have a couple subjective tests. We want to do a stress test where we see if two adult men can rip any of these interfacings in half, and we're also going to do a comfort test to see what Bobby thinks the different interfaces feel like on his skin. Let's start out easy with that. So I'm going to hand them to Bobby, and he's going to score them with 1 being sandpaper and 5 being the most comfortable imaginable thing. Okay, and here's your first sample. Go ahead and feel that. You can rub it against your face, and I'll tell people what it was. So what's its rating?
I'm going to go 2.5.
Right, so this is a commercial knit interfacing, which you would never put on the back of a woven fabric, but that's what that was. All right, let's check that out.
It's smooth, but I don't know if it has a softness. I'll give it a 1.8.
3 layers of Mylar-like plastic. So different plastics actually have different textures. That's just what we're working with today. Okay, here's a fun one. This is our avant-garde selection. Oh, you're doing the wrong side.
I'm gonna go with 1 on that one. I'm gonna go 2.8. That's a 3.
Super, so we have a variety of comfort levels, but bear in mind that interfacing usually isn't right against your skin. It's usually between a couple layers. All right, next test. Let's see how all of our interfacings do in the wash. We're just gonna shove them all in here and give it a little agitation. Woo! Oh my gosh. Wow, this is a little bit messier than I anticipated. There we go. All right. Give it a little 60-minute wash cycle and let's see who survived. As you can see, pretty much everybody survived except for Mr. Paper Pants.
Sweet.
Hey, we're pros.
We've been doing this already for like a minute.
All right, so we're
90
doing
seconds.
a
Killing
stress test
Killing
now.
it.
We're just gonna see if these guys can rip any of these little interfacing back to things apart. Go ahead and give it a try.
Easy. Okay.
You can use both hands.
Oh.
I can't use both hands. Okay, I'll try to use both hands. Hey, this is hard.
It's
No.
pretty tough. I think we're
It's pretty sturdy, huh?
It's sturdy.
Okay, try this one
Give
with
us
the
the
paper.
paper-
We're gonna try the
paper
paper one.
Okay.
See if we can rip that.
Hey,
can't no,
Is this-
that's
is this
harder than I thought. Can we start with a little tear on it or?
Sure, we're gonna
there's
give them a little
backing,
tear.
there's backing.
Okay, they want a little tear here.
Tara.
All right, I expect to see this thing rip. Are you guys
Oh,
ready?
wait, wait,
Don't
wait.
fall over. Okay. Well, they ripped the interfacing. Oh, they did it! Stress.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
see. Let's see if you can. I want to see if you can you get through any of the others if I give you a little rip. Okay.
Yeah.
So
probably
let's try. Let's try the sheet.
Get
Okay.
ripped.
We're gonna try the sheet.
Okay. But you got to go past the seam.
I will. I'll go past
bit.
the seam.
Little
All
bit.
right. There you go.
All right.
Give it a rip.
Oops.
Oh,
Come
sorry.
on. Stress test.
Yeah,
I
let's-
think
let's
that's
choke
the-
up on it.
How about
Yeah.
the
Let's
plastic?
choke up
You
on
guys want to try the plastic? Plastic tears easily, doesn't it?
Nah, that one's tough.
Okay. Everything's passing the stress test. Let's try the plastic. Here, you got a little rip in there. See if you can do it. Here, I'll take that out of your hand to make it easier.
We'll start on. We'll start close. Oh yeah, look at that. Looking good. We have the strength of 2 men.
How do we do that?
It's amazing.
All right, so this
That's pretty
DIY,
good.
DIY option, it made it all the way to the seams. Any others you want to try? I feel like you guys can do the sheet.
We tried.
Did you? Oh, you did. Okay. Okay, so what we're doing here is I'm turning the iron up all the way. I'm going to leave it on a full minute. You're just going to have to trust me that I did that because we're not going to sit here and watch a full minute. And then we're going to see how it did. I'm going to add that it could get hotter, but I'm using this paper as a press cloth because I have plastic fibers in the polyester of the mixed cotton shirt and in the acetate, and I just really object to melting things onto my iron. I know I'm funny that way. I didn't include putting the interfacing together as part of the test, but I do want to mention that if you're taking a knit and using it as an interfacing for a knit, it's really, really hard to put it on with a glue stick. So in that case, I totally recommend just using pins and sewing it in. Or easier yet, use a lightweight woven and forgo the knit in that part of the garment. Oh, we are seeing that the Mylar did melt there. Oh yeah, there's some melting action. So that Mylar did not stand up well in the heat test. We're gonna move to a new section on here. All right, here we have, I'm just gonna summarize the burn test because unless you're caught in a burning building, it's not super relevant to interfacing. I'm gonna say all of the plastic-based fibers generally melted and smelled stinky, and the natural fibers all smelled like a campfire. what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a little cone shape out of these. And then I'm going to set it on the table here. And we're going to hit it with my shoe and see how well it bounces back. So I think that one held its shape pretty well. Yeah, that was nice. And that one was heavy duty commercial interfacing. And now we've got a DIY interfacing. Let's see how this compares, the denim compares to the heavy duty commercial. There's our lovely little cone, and we smush it. And I think it pretty much recovers its shape pretty much almost as well. Let's do the next one. Okay, this is a bed sheet. Okay, and it stands up pretty well there. And let's see how well it recovers its shape. Pretty nicely, I have to say, the bed sheet is looking pretty good to me. And let's see if we can find the bed sheet's competitor is the commercial interfacing that's lightweight. So here we're gonna see, oh, that makes a very nice cone. I do have to say, this is has a little bit more structure to it than the bed sheet had. Oh, look at that, bounces back so beautifully. The commercial interfacing absolutely does win here, but I have to say our bed sheet was entirely adequate. So it's not like winning by a ton. Okay, what we have here is we have a knit interfacing on knit. So this is a commercial knit interfacing. This is exactly how it would be used. And it's standing up pretty nicely, you know, for a knit. That's a lot of structure. I'm pretty impressed. Okay, and we're putting it back up. Oh, that knit interfacing bounces back beautifully. So there's certainly value in the commercial interfacings, like they're doing a really good job. Let's compare that to this skirt. Now, we are only looking at one random selection of fabric that we could use for interfacing with the skirt. Like, look at, this isn't even, it's not, I will get you another test. Usually I use t-shirt fabric to interface my t-shirt fabric, so I'm gonna get you another test, but just because we're here, yeah, she bounces back to where she was, but where she was, not great. So we're gonna say our DIY interfacing on that one sucked. Here we have another DIY interfacing. This is 3 layers of plastic. Not something I recommend unless you're making trash fashion, and it's great to know that different plastics in different situations behave differently. This one is actually, it's given me some really, really good shape here to begin with. It's not as smooth. I said it was giving good shape, but then I noticed it's really not as smooth of a finish because it's got some places where the plastic wants to hold its puckered shape. And what we have here is we have our paper. Oh man, we crumpled her down. She does not pop back on her own, and you can see it's very rumpled. So just as expected, paper sucks. I think we can see that the commercial interfacings won, but they didn't win by a mile. There were a lot of the DIY options that, you know, stood up really well. The one place we saw a big fail was with the knit interfacing option. I usually use t-shirt fabric, so I'm gonna do an additional test and sort of tag it on because I feel like that poor knit's at a little disadvantage because of the one that I happened to choose. That was seriously too much fun. Okay, time for some conclusions. So here's my take, is for my projects, if I have a big area that I want to cover, I'm going to grab the commercial heat activated glue because it's just going to be easier. But flexible fabric has worked for, you know, hundreds of centuries and is still used by couture houses. So 99% of the time, I'm going to find something I have on hand and make use of that. If you want to see how I do that, I do have an excellent little beginner video on how to make a ransom note t-shirt, and that's a wonderful place to begin with lots of examples.